It is our great pleasure. He is pleasure to introduce Dr. Kishore Jain. He is presently associated with Pharmacy Division, KK Education Society as coordinator and principal of KK College of Pharmacy, Nashik. He holds a rich academic, industrial, and research experience of 39 years. His area of research includes anti-hyperlipidemic, anti-cancer, and anti-infective drug research, process development of active pharmaceutical ingredient, green chemistry, and analytical method development. He has over 100 research publications and quality reviews in reputed international journals, 16 textbooks, and 2 patents, and high citation index is rated. He is a reviewer to many reputed journals in the field of organic synthesis, pharmaceutical analysis, and medicinal chemistry. As Associate Editor for Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, member of Editorial Board of Austin Journal of Analytical and Pharmaceutical Chemistry, USA, EC Journal of Toxicology and Pharmacology, USA, current topic in medicinal chemistry, Bentham Science, USA, current bioactiviticals, Bentham Science, USA. He was guest editor for current topics in medicinal chemistry, Bentham, USA. He is a member, reviewer panel, research project, National Science Center, Poland. He has guided several PhD and MPharm scholars for their research projects and earned several funding from DST, AICTE, UGC, ICMR, and Savitribai Phule Pune University worth rupees 1 crore 15 lakh. He delivered lectures at various national and international conferences. He was the Dean, Pharmacy Faculty, Savitribai Phule Pune University, and also member Academic Council, Board of Study and Examination Reform Committee. Presently, he is a member of Executive Council and Board of Studies of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Technological University. We welcome you, sir, for this wonderful session.
It's our pleasure to invite Dr. Kishore S. Jain to deliver his address to the delegates. Dr. Kishore Jain, sir, please.
Thank you, madam. And can I share the screen? Yeah.
Yes, sir, you can.
Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Okay. It's indeed a pleasure to be on the platform and interacting with people at DIPSAR. DIPSAR actually, long ago, I was a regular visitor when my very best friend, Dr. M.R. Yadav was there. I used to be the regular examiner when Professor Agarwal was the head of the institution. And then I think that was in the 90s. And then after I am now meeting my very good friend, Dr. Pathak. Both Pathak brothers and Dr. and Mrs. Pathak are also very well known to me, and so is Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Chandigarh, all stalwarts and the real chemistry people. And of course, I had a very, very long, fruitful association with Professor Dr. Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. R.K. Goyal, sir. Rather, some of my presentations, he is also a part of that earlier. We used to jointly work also, pharmacology and chemistry. And so we had a very big association with Dr. Goyal. Even it continued. I have stayed in his VC's this thing also when he was MS University Baroda Vice Chancellor. And now after a long time, it's really a different feeling to come here and deliver a small talk. I am very much thankful to Dr. Sharad Wakode, who gave me this opportunity, who invited me, and of course to Pathak also. And I wish a very bright good afternoon to all the delegates and all the organizers, and including Dr. Amrita Parle madam. She also once visited Sinhagad College of Pharmacy in some faculty development program, and I know Dr. Milind Parle also very well. So many of the faces are very well known. So without much ado, I will start my session. That is use of green chemical techniques for high throughput generation of NCE libraries, because the theme of this particular FDP is more focused on new drug research. I think, am I audible? I'm audible, no, Wakode
Yes,
sir?
sir. Yes, sir. You are
Okay,
very well.
okay, thank you.
Someone has started, I think, their audio. Please switch off the audio.
Or you can actually mute others. You can,
That we are trying.
arrangement is also there.
Yeah, yeah. We are-
Okay.
Done.
Phase 1, phase 2 trials. So I will not talk much on it. This is a very this thing. But where does this compound libraries or parallel synthesis come to make NCs? That comes in the preclinical part. And this is the preclinical part where we involve a lot of receptor identification, which is to be blocked, which is the target for our modulating the disease process. And also a lot of in silico high throughput, either in silico screening is there, or also automated real high throughput screening is also involved. And for this purpose, nowadays we are also giving emphasis on virtual screening of large databases. But here I am going to talk about the combinatorial and parallel synthesis. And at presently, we don't talk much about combinatorial, which has been replaced more by parallel synthesis. And this has become so automated and high throughput that lakhs and lakhs of molecules are made regularly. I had been involved in this. I had been also involved in a different way, like with some companies. When I used to run my own organization, I used to be a supplier of compound libraries. So that is one of the reason I got fascinated in this. And there are many challenges to make lots of compounds in very short time, which we will discuss through our course of my lecture. And then others are lead optimization and ADME and etc. So what is really needed, we focus on our topic, is we need fast iteration in the drug discovery cycle. We need to choose the so-called themes or so-called potential molecules or series, which we find interesting. And so this chemistry selection using some SAR and QSAR and other things. And then we make them actually in the laboratory, we synthesize them, and this synthesis needs to be very fast. We need to optimize the synthetic procedure, their purification, their scale up. This needs to be really fast. And then we need to interpret the results and proceed further. And we need to do it in a parallel platform. So our processes are to be tuned up in such a way they are very rapid, and we can at one go make various, what you can say, diversity in the molecules and various derivatives. So the evolution of parallel synthesis is basically it's based on the better understanding of diversity, and more and more people are now focused on focused libraries, like diversity around a central core. Like here we can see there are 3 diversity points, and here you can see diversity in the central core. That is, you can go on changing the through bioisosteric replacements, you can change this scaffold, and you can have this other part of the pharmacophore as it is. So based on this, one can go. So development of hardware is also required. A lot of engineering goes into that, which will do the automation. That requires automation for synthesis, and we have Radley, Barnstead, and many more synthesis platforms in our National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. We have a huge platform for in one go they can make so many molecules. You also need a very high throughput purification of this synthesized compounds, and there are purification systems, parallel purification systems. You have a computerized protocol and compounds get purified. And then you also need to remove the solvents or evaporations, or by you can say rotary evaporation mostly. And these are also automated. And of course, you need to do a very rapid analysis, characterization of these molecules, because finally you are going to test. You need to do the analysis qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Means the purity is also very important, because finally pure compounds only will be used for first line, second line activity assessment. So you need a hyphenated systems, like different hyphenated systems, and so this entire assembly can be, like you say, in line. And here comes green chemistry. So basically, I thought I should speak a little bit about what is green chemistry. And green chemistry is not a new concept, everybody knows, but for the benefit of a variety of people in the audience, I thought I will talk a little bit about green chemistry. Green chemistry is a very organized and disciplined chemistry, a very healthy chemistry. Basically means healthy from the point of eco-friendliness, less polluting chemistry. Like for example, if you have bad heating habits, and that will be unhealthy, that will be wastage. But if you have good habits and etiquettes, it will be more healthy and economical. So this picture represents the difference between disadvantages of bad habits and advantages of good habits, and the outcome of the same. Similarly, in pollution in the vehicles also, and particularly Delhi can identify that in the evenings, earlier it used to be, you had to go even for alternate days, odd even scheme. And if your machines are, the engines are not very eco-friendly, they are emitting a lot of this thing, combustion and gases, it will lead to a disaster. But now you have hybrid cars and you have got electrical cars, and also this is more eco-friendly, and the world is moving towards more eco-friendly. And so therefore chemical industry is also not an exception to this. This used to be a picture when I used to travel from Maharashtra to Gujarat while going from Ankleshwar. I used to feel that. And today things are, there's a lot of global hue and cry, and the industrial focus also, and the regulations are also more focused on less pollution. So let us see, green chemistry leads us to what? The green chemistry leads us to think environmentally, think economically, talk about atom economy, solvent reduction, reagent optimization. When you talk about atom economy, you use only the stoichiometry and convergency, and of course energy reduction. The same reaction which used to take a lot of energy will be done at room temperature or at ambient temperature. So a lot of energy will be reduced. You also can do in situ analysis or real-time analysis, and most important is the safety part. So it should be, green chemistry is more focused on less and less non-hazardous type of processes and reagents and material handling, and so therefore it is more eco-friendly. So it will be reducing many things: energy, waste, cost, risks and hazards, environmental impact, and also the material. I am going to discuss few techniques, and I am going to just introduce you to few techniques of green chemistry, and out of which I am going to talk on ionic liquids, where I have worked on it, published on it, and I have prepared libraries using ionic liquids. And I am going to talk about the most important thing, other are microwave and PTC and other things. And I'm also going to talk a little bit of sound as a catalyst to speed up reactions, that is called as a sonochemistry. And I'm going to talk about PTC, phase transfer catalysis, which was once upon a time a boom in late 65s, 70s. And now there are third generation PTCs in the market. And of course, microwave assisted organic synthesis is most suitable to laboratory scale. And here we are talking about NCE libraries. So when we talk about libraries, we produce molecules in minuscule amounts. And basically, when we sell these compounds, they are actually evaporated in solutions in DMSO, and they are put on Teflon sticks, and this is how we sell them. So, and of course, I am talking about something called as use of water as a solvent, reaction solvent, modulating reaction conditions. Water behaves very differently. Its solubility is enhanced, its acidity is enhanced, its boiling point can be taken above 100, and it can be made to act as a catalytic solvent. Last one is, of course, the microbial and enzymatic conversions, which I am going to not touch in this because I have got only 1 hour at my disposal. Let us talk about ionic liquids. These are salts of relatively large organic cations. Most of these cations are basically nitrogenous compounds. They may be open chain quaternary ammonium type of compounds, or they may be mostly nitrogen containing heterocycles and some inorganic or organic anions like BF3 and some acetates and other things. And they have a melting range. I'm talking here about melting range. They can be from minus 96 to 100 degree, but they have a very wide boiling range, of course. And these are some of the examples of quaternary ammonium and sulfonium and phosphinium, and these are the imidazoles and pyridinium, and these are the beryllium, and these are the thiazoles, isothiazoles, and triazoles, and oxazoles, isoxazoles, and these are the imidazoles. So these are all these are the pyrazoles, and these are all the, what you can say, the cation part. And these are combined with these types of anions, chlorides, bromides, BF4, PF6, SbF6, zinc chloride, etc., etc. And here you can see some of them are organic also. And these salts are actually called as ionic liquids. They look like these, actually very crystalline in nature. Some of the photographs of these ionic liquids are there. So at room temperature, they may be beautiful crystalline solids, and as you start heating them, they will turn into liquids, and they have fantastic attributes, and they are wonderful solvents, offering a lot of advantages. And let us see what are the advantages or salient features of these ionic liquids. They have a very low vapor pressure, that means very high boiling points, and they can go up to 350, and so they don't evolve any toxic fumes, or there is a very minimal loss in recovery. In industrial setup, recovery of solvent is a big problem. They have good thermal stability, and most importantly, they are non-flammable. And they dissolve both type of compounds, covalent compounds, that is organic compounds, as well as inorganic salts. So that is a fantastic range of solubility. These are polar liquids, yet they are non-coordinating. That is also another very good property. And in case of metal-centered homogeneous catalytic reactions, some precious metals when you are using, or noble metals you are using as catalyst, generally the IL favor to solubilize this catalyst in their phase. And when you cool down the reaction mixture, particularly when you are conducting a biphasic reaction, say with water or organic solvent and ionic liquid mixture, like in PTC, these metal catalyst will enter into they will remain soluble in the ionic liquids. And so ionic liquids then after cooling will crystallize out, and so you very nicely separable without much problem. And then you can, from these ionic liquids, you can almost quantitatively recover these catalysts. So they have a large electrochemical window, tunability of polarity, nucleophilicity, conductivity, and dielectric constants. These are very important properties, and this can be maneuvered or manipulated just by manipulating the negative part, that is the anion part of that, or the side chains of these heterocyclic cations, and you can really increase or decrease the lipophilicity and all this polarity and etc. And by changing the alkyl substituents of the cation or the charge of the anion. And you can also tune them in such a way that they can be co-miscible with the other solvents, water, etc. So these are really wonderful solvents. And they are very much adaptable to the synthesis of bioactive fused heterocycles. Particularly in the multi-component synthesis or MCR mode reactions, which are very suitable for our parallel synthesis. A multi-component like Bignelli and other reactions are like combining all steps in one single step, and in parallel synthesis you need minimum steps, and therefore there is a minimum workup, and the overall yield also is very well preserved. The ionic liquids double up the reaction media as well as the promoters. replacing volatile organic matters in the conventional organic synthesis, and many instances obviate the need of any additional catalysts. Means they have a dual role. They act as solvents and they themselves also catalyze the reactions. They enhance the nucleophilicity or electrophilicity of the two reactants. And I'm going to actually explain you the mechanism with animation, how they do that, and with the help of hydrogen bonding, both the positive and the negative part. They make the anion naked, and it's multiple times the nucleophilicity is enhanced. And I'm going to show you with a dihydropyrimidine, that is DHPM scaffold Bignelli reaction. I'm going to document in the next slide. The inherent Bronsted-Lewis acidity of these ionic liquids allow them to forge hydrogen bonded interactions with suitable functionalities, and that is what I was talking. They can form hydrogen bonds with the two reactants or three reactants in an MCR, and they can really tie them up, and they can really expose the nucleophilic center, or the electrophilic attack is really what you can say, potentiated. This enables the reaction to be carried out in a short time in MCR mode, and allowing for the generation of combinatorial libraries of such molecules as a part of drug discovery process. So they can speed up the reactions manifolds, like the reaction which was to go. I'm going to share my publication and my, even I have written a small this thing also, review also on ionic liquids, and where I have covered almost 24 or 26 different systems. So they can really speed up in wonderfully. They can make the reaction to happen in quantitatively and in utmost purity in few minutes. The nature of the anion has been found to be governing the acidities and polarities of the ionic liquids, and an increase in the basicity of the anion results in an increase in the acidity and polarity of the ionic liquid. So you can manipulate the properties of the given ionic liquid by manipulating the cation and anion part of it, and also the length of the alkyl groups. So the focus is actually, you want to have non-toxic and biodegradable ionic liquids, which is opened up a bright future that can lead to eco-friendly commercial processes. People are trying to take these ionic liquids on a higher level, at like a bulk this thing. They are so far, and I happen to have a collaboration for 7-8 years with NCL, Dr. Srinivasan, who was the head of one division, and he was working a lot on ionic liquids, and this is how we started working on ionic liquids. So this is a mechanism I am trying to explain of the DHPM, that is dihydropyrimidine moiety. This is one ionic liquid, dicationic ionic liquid, and it is imidazolium, diimidazolium bromide. This is an aldehyde, and this is a urea. Okay. Now let us see the mechanism. What happens is the electrophilic character of this carbonyl carbon gets enhanced because this hydrogen bonding really this is tied up, and this central carbonyl carbon is becoming more positive. Delta positive charge is increased. And on the other hand, there is a HBr or hydrogen bonding between the amino nitrogen and of the urea. And this enhances the nucleophilicity of this particular nitrogen. So this attack is very facile. So these both things are enhanced basically. Here the electrophilicity is enhanced and the nucleophilicity is also enhanced. This is how it works, and this works in all the steps actually. So first you get an acylium adduct actually. This acylium adduct has been formed. Now it goes to the third part, that is ethyl acetoacetate. So again the hydrogen bonding comes, and with the enol hydroxyl group, it forms a hydrogen bond and further enhances the attack from the double bond. And final adduct, open chain adduct number 6 is also formed. We can see here this bond is formed. And now you can see this is almost really tied up, and this 1, 3, and this 5, they have formed the adduct. And the last step is the intramolecular attack by the amino to the carbonyl to form the what you can say tetrahydropyrimidine, and which then loses a molecule of water to give you the dihydropyrimidinone. And these are very, very important bioactive. Lot of work has been done on this. And with ionic liquid, you just need to mix them all. And these reactions can go in few minutes and you can get quantitative yield. So just varying this R, and here you can make libraries of these compounds. So I was so fascinated that we wrote one review article in AjFarm, and almost 26 scaffolds of heterocycles we covered. We saw that Dr. K.V. Srinivasan, I told you, and he was actively involved at our college also as an emeritus professor. And we wrote this review article which got many citations, and then we also used it for the facile esterification of sodium salts of carboxylic acid with alkyl halides. And these reactions, we use the synergy of the dipolar aprotic solvent DMSO along with ionic liquid. The reactions went in 1.5 minutes. We prepared libraries of these also. And then we prepared another library of 1-aryl tetrazoles, again with the same synergistic combination. And so these are my some experiences about ionic liquids, because I'm just introducing you to some techniques which are very useful for library synthesis. The another is sound chemistry or sonochemistry, and ultrasound in chemical reactions in solution provide a specific activation based on a phenomena called as acoustic cavitation. So this is very, very, this cavitation process is generally done by a mechanical thing, which is fitted to the vessel, which generates the sound waves. And this activation destroys the active forces within the molecules, and then it puts a lot of pressure on the molecules in the initial stage, and then suddenly it releases the pressure, so the molecules go on expanding, and suddenly these bubbles expand so much that they become so unstable that they violently collide with each other. And such a situation is created in this cavity. And such cavities or bubbles are created through ultrasonic waves using ultrasonicators. Two types of ultrasonicators I am going to discuss in the next slide. And a lot of references with sound chemistry are actually documented, particularly in SYNLATE or synthetic communications. You find a lot of literature on this. So it is, you need to have a frequency of the transducers which are fitted either at a vessel. This vessel is very common in your HPLC system. You many a times the volumetric flask, so you sonicate to dissolve the material before injecting it in the column or in the what you can say, introducing in the pump, injection portal. So that is a very simple type of ultrasonicator, but these are of specially made, and they have the frequency sometimes even going to 200 kilohertz. And this high frequency can really create acoustic cavitation, and small cavities are introduced in the solution where the molecules which get trapped in this, and this requires some piezoelectric materials like barium titanate and lithium niobate and lead zirconia titanate. And these can be in two forms, like baths with transducers fitted at the bottom, or this can be also a horn-shaped ultrasonicator, which is connected to a generator, and that can be directly introduced in the reaction flask. Fine. So it will introduce bubbles in that. And I explained you the mechanism. and the reaction can go very fast. So these are some of the higher rates and yields and selectivities can be obtained by ultrasonication reactions. And these are definitely unconventional methods, very neat and clean, without much of pollution, nil pollution, you can say. And you can say these are applicable to variety of substrates. It has got more general application, sonochemistry. It can work very well in organometallic synthesis in aqueous mediums. It can equally work, replace high temperature and high pressure reactions and make them at room temperature or ambient temperatures or ambient conditions. And it can also make them, it's a very good activation method than the conventional. What you need is equipment, and you create bubbles, and in this cavity you create such a, you simulate such a type of condition which is representing almost 5000 degree Kelvin temperature and 1000 atmospheric pressure. And therefore the reaction, the molecules are so vigorously colliding with each other that the reactions take place in fractions of seconds. Another very important topic in this is phase transfer catalysis. And I had a long stint in the industry in Ahmedabad. I stayed for 20 years and I was working as a vice president in the bulk drug industry, and they were the #2 world manufacturers of phase transfer catalysis. And once upon a time, phase transfer catalysis was a rage. And I talked something about started with Stark and Leota in 1975. And up to 1995, 2000, PTC was very much preferred. And they really are wonderful reagents. They required in a very minuscule amount, and they are reusable. So PTC can operate under two conditions only, under neutral as well as basic conditions, because they are themselves, phase transfer catalysts themselves are alkaline in nature. Acidic condition will kill them. So PTC can either be neutral phase transfer, neutral conditions, the simple water or alcohol mixture, water or toluene mixture, or they can have toluene plus 50% or 20% caustic lye as one phase. So sometimes there are also solid PTC, solid liquid PTC, and where you can use a mixture of potassium carbonate, and you can have a mixture of another base like a powdered KOH in it, and you add a PTC to that, so it wonderfully enhances. And beauty of PTC is PTC can also be used in combination with another green chemical technique, which I am going to come. So they are not passive. The beauty of the PTC is it has a dual nature. It has this lot of polar part is there, and this entire is the lipophilic part, and so therefore it's like an octopus with lot of alkyl and hydrocarbon chains. So it can very easily enter in the lipophilic or organic phase, and with its polar type of this thing, the quaternary ammonium or quaternary phosphonium charged nitrogen or phosphorus, along with its anion that is bromide or sulfate or whatever, it gets an entry into the water solution also. And therefore this PTC works as a beautiful carrier to carry one reactant from organic to water and again bring it back to organic. And once it does its job, it comes back to do the same operation for another molecule. This is what I am going to explain you. And compared to conventional methods, like instead of 16 hours, this is basically a simple nucleophilic displacement of an alkyl halide with cyanide. This is PTC. It can just happen at room temperature with tetrabutyl ammonium bromide in just a half an hour. Or this is a very difficult process. I have to create an anion here. I want to do C alkylation here, and with I want to do ethylation, so I need sodamide. Sodamide using is very difficult. It's a very but I can do it in PTC at a very ambient temperatures, and I will get very high yields, 95%. Here I will get only 70. So PTC does a reduction in time, reduction in enhancement in purity, and enhancement what you can say in yields. There are different generations of PTCs. The ammonium salts, that is what you can say, the quaternary ammonium and quaternary, these are the TBAB and TBAB sulfate and TBA TEBA, tetraethyl ammonium bromide, and these are very common in industry. They are called by these names only. There are quaternary phosphonium salts which are little bit costlier. There is second generations which are crown ethers, and these are 18 crown 6, 15 crown 5, dibenzo 18 crown 6. These are costing per kg, they are costing in lakhs of rupees. And fortunately, I was involved in making these crown ethers in 500, 1000 kg batches. I'd set up the procedures in Dishman Pharmaceuticals using again very eco-friendly these things. And these crown ethers are called as crown ethers because if you energy minimize them, they assume a shape of a crown. And I'm going to explain you the mechanism how crown ethers work. They are extremely costly. Next is of the third generation. And products. Schematic we have cyanide displacement I have taken here, and this is the aqueous phase, and this is the organic phase, and we have basically sodium cyanide will never go in organic phase. So what we do is actually we want to take this cyanide to the organic phase. So I have added a quaternary ammonium chloride. So there is an exchange in the first stage, the first step. So there is an exchange of cyanide and chloride. Now, by the virtue of this quaternary ammonium, this cyanide will go into this organic phase in step 2. And now it will react with this alkyl chloride, which otherwise is so hygroscopic that the moment it comes in touch with this water phase, it will be destroyed to alcohol or hydrolyzed to alcohol. So this is toluene, you imagine, and this is water or 20%, 50% caustic lye. Now, next is the third step is the exchange of this. So again, Cl cyanide, second exchange. So this is your desired compound. And then again this PTC, which is 0.001 mole, is free and ready to come back and attack next cyanide ion and do this. This keeps on doing iteratively. And if you see, open up Woggle, and if you just open up, you want to make benzyl chloride to benzyl cyanide, the reaction is reversible in normal conditions. And it hardly proceeds beyond 70%. And here you can go up to 98%. And just stir them in a conical flask, just add a pinch of PTC. And then finally your product, you just dry the toluene layer and distill it, and you get the, what you can say, the alkyl benzyl cyanide in very good purity, TLC pure. So that is the mechanism of a PTC, just for explanation. Many people may be knowing it. This is the mechanism of crown ethers. Again, these are two phase mixtures. And I have taken the example of dibenzo 18 crown 6, and dibenzo has a particular affinity for in this. These are supramolecular reactions, and then it has a fantastic ability for sodium. 18 crown, this thing, dibenzo 18 crown has got an ability to attract sodium from anywhere, and 15 crown 5 will pull the potassium. So different cations they will attract. So the moment it pulls this, cyanide will become naked, and the nucleophilicity of this cyanide anion will be 100 times enhanced. It will loiter around this cation, this complex, and by virtue of its dual nature, this cyanide will also cross this barrier, and it will go to the organic phase, where now it is ready to react with this alkyl halide, and in quantitative fashion you get your product, and again you get this complex. You need to just distill out. So you throw this NaCl at high temperature and vacuum, you get your crown back. So You can avoid strong bases, you can avoid exotic solvents, you can increase the yields, you can reduce the reaction cycles, you can avoid or circumvent the use of excess solvent, excess reagents, costly reagents. You can just go for stoichiometry. You have enhanced reactivity, you have very good selectivity, and you do a variety of reactions, to name a few, by using PTCs. And these are some advantages: they enhance productivity, environmental performance, pollution prevention, enhancing safety, reducing raw material costs. This is now the next technique which I'm talking about is microwave. We saw ionic liquids, we saw sonochemistry, we saw PTC. We are coming to the fourth technique, and this is microwave, and I'm going to talk a little bit more on this. This is the conventional heating by conduction. These are the walls of the vessels, and when I boil them, imagine you put a pot on a burner and started boiling it. First, the outer walls will get heated, and then slowly through conduction, the inner core, and sometimes even this core this will be an uneven propagation of heat. But now if you compare it with microwave, you will find the standing waves will propagate all across this thing. And what I want to show is that each and every molecule will be attacked by the microwave and will be set in a very spontaneous motion, and they will collide with each other, and every molecule will be uniformly heated. So localized superheating is avoided. That is the beauty of microwave, and it requires very less energy, 50% energy than the normal thing. And so therefore microwave achieves efficient heating, uniform heating, selective heating, higher yields, greater reproducibility, increased rate of reaction, and it's most eco-friendly. These are some mechanisms suggested: dipolar polarization mechanism, conduction mechanism, and this is a combination of both, interfacial mechanism. I will not go much into details. I am just introducing you. Our main thing is how we could use these techniques for making libraries of NCs. I'm going to talk a little bit about the microwave oven, which your normal domestic microwave is allowed to work at 2.45 gigahertz. Not other frequencies are allowed because they interfere with the radar, and so the Defense Ministry doesn't allow that. And at this particular thing, it is just sufficient to penetrate a depth of 1 to 1.5 inch. And therefore, what happens actually when you take a vessel, either a Teflon bowl or a glass bowl, and you heat your chapati or bread or your rice in that, what are water molecules are trapped in your food, they get heated up, and you think that the food is heated up. These are the types of microwave ovens: multi-mode, and this is unimode. And I'm going to explain you what is multi-mode and what is unimode. Unimode is or monomode is much costlier compared to multi-mode. Your kitchen microwave is of course multi-mode. Now this is a typical microwave, and these are its interiors. And this is a schematic of it, and I'm going to explain. There is the source of power, which is called as a magnetron. It is a cathode. Okay, and this is the power source. This is a power source, and then there is a waveguide. So from this power source, from this waveguide, these microwaves will travel in this heating chamber, or the microwave cavity, or the oven cavity. This is the oven cavity, which is now, see, you can see this oven cavity. You can see here also the oven cavity. Yes, this is the oven cavity. Okay, fine. And this was the magnetron. Okay. Now we differentiate between unimode and multi-mode. Mode stirrer, because to make the traveling of these microwaves uniform all to every nook and corner of the cavity, you need to spread them uniformly, and you have a fan-shaped pedal at the top, which is a very reflecting material is used. This is called as a unimode, and this is the fan-shaped pedal. And in your kitchen microwave, which is multi-mode, you move the vessel actually, and that vessel you mount it on a tabletop, So this is a turntable, and this is a multimode. This is multimode. So I think now you will get this idea clear. What is unimode? What is multimode? Reaction vessels, you never use of metal. They should be glass beakers, or they can be of Teflon or polystyrene, because these are transparent to microwave. Even in microwave, if you heat something, material will get heated, but the outer wall will not. So metals are, they are reflective. The solvents absorb microwave. So reactions are happening, and Teflon, glass, and quartz, they are transparent. Reaction medium, solvent is very important. There are two types of reactions. You can make it liquid phase, or you can make it solid support or solid phase. And generally, this solvent should have a dipole, so it can absorb. A solvent, in order to absorb microwave, should be dipolar. If it is a non-polar, like toluene and other things, it will never get heated up. And preferably a solvent which you want to use should have boiling point more than 20 to 30 than what you envisage for a reaction. So these are solvent assisted synthesis, and these are the what you can say, NN-dimethyl formamide is a wonderful solvent, and high boiling point, and it has got a high absorption power of microwave, which is called as a dielectric constant. Other solvents which come in this class is formamide. They are all have a very high dielectric constant: methanol, ethanol, chlorobenzene, dichlorobenzene, because they all have, due to their structural features, they have a very good dipole moment. Hydrocarbons have very poor, what you can say, a dielectric constant, and so they are of no use. But you can use hydrocarbons by adding 5% of polar solvent, so they can become very good sinks. And in solvent-free synthesis, you use solid supported reactions or neat reactions. In a beaker, what you can do is, you can take a mixture of any of this phyllosilicate or silica or clephane or alumina, which is activated type of thing, which you use in column chromatography. With that, you mix the solution of your compound in dichloromethane or something, stir it well, so it gets nicely adsorbed, and then suck dry through a rota vapor the solvent. So now, and dry it. So now your thing is solid supported, and now that flask you directly put in the microwave for irradiation, and then you again extract it with dichloromethane, and you will get the product. So both starting materials, first you get adsorbed, or sometimes you just take the two neat starting materials and just irradiate, and they will melt, and they will form the product. That is solvent-free synthesis. So these are some important points. Dielectric constant is very important. That is the ability of the molecule to store the microwave charges or absorb the microwave. And now not only this should be absorbed, it should also be dissipated. This should be transferred to the solvents, to the reactant molecules, so they will react. So the dielectric loss is another important factor, and this dielectric loss divided by dielectric constant, that is the tan loss or tan delta, is the most important factor. The higher the tan delta of a solvent, it is the most preferred solvent. So this is how you choose what solvent I want to use. Fine. These are some of the solvents with very good tan delta: ethylene glycol, diethylene glycol, ethanol, dimethyl sulfoxide, isopropanol, formic acid. And at these, the toluene, and these are very poor. They cannot be used actually. So how you, and carbon tetrachloride has zero dipole moment. Benzene, dioxane, they are useless. They are symmetrical molecules. While using, every solvent interacts with microwave differently, depend on its polarity, and solvent can be categorized in three categories. I will show you with three categories: high absorbance level, medium absorbance level, low absorbance level. How you choose a solvent is again what you want in the reaction. You want high temperature, high pressure, high energy. Accordingly, high temperature is required, then you choose a solvent that will reach the set temperature. So boiling point will determine. High pressure is required, then set a maximum high temperature for a low boiling solvent. The pressure will increase, vapor pressure will increase rapidly, and you will get a very continuous rise in the BP. High energy is required, then you can experimentally demonstrated that you give cool shocks, cold shocks. Means intermittent, you go on cooling the vessel. And this is a very useful phenomenon in microwave chemistry. Protic solvents like DMSO or DMF or sometimes acetic acid, they solvate or interact with both cations and anions. Aprotic solvents only interact with cations. Non-polar solvents can be admixed with polar solvents like 5% ethanol, methanol, and toluene. They can form as heat sinks to maintain the internal temperature, and they are also very useful. And you see, under microwave conditions, you will always find that what is the normal boiling point under microwave, this is enhanced. And this is wonderfully used. In case of water also, you take it, microwave takes it to 105. This is used to our benefit. And this is a wonderful paper which I want to discuss. No, these are some microwave reactors available. These are monomode. A robotic gripper device moves, keeps on taking, sample tubes in an array of sample tubes in which the permutation combinations of the reactants are done for the library. Up to 60 reactions in one go can be taken, and this is actually by Biotage. It is called, model is Initiator 60. This is by CM Corporation, and a continuous flow single microwave reactor by CM Corporation. Scale up is achieved, and you can go up to 80 ml in the sealed reaction. So one by one, it can actually suck the reagents. One reaction is over, it can again suck the reagents and the solvents, perform another reaction. Again, it will be a continuous flow, non-stop. You can program it. This is a multi-mode. You can have a total platform with 94 wells, a small vessel, 96 deep micro liter plates. And this entire thing you can load. You can pipette in different permutation combinations of the, say, substrates, and you load this inside and then irradiate. And this is again, this is by, of course, Milestone, and this is by Antonpar Synthos. And you can have a rotor assembly here where you can put the reaction tubes, and this can work. This is a very good paper. I wish to mention how this parallel synthesis came in picture by Sham, Journal of Combinatorial Chemistry. Fantastic. This entire filter paper has been actually used as a parallel synthesis platform. And what he has done is he has taken 96 squares with a pencil and a ruler he has drawn on this filter paper, and each place he has put the trichlorotriazine solution spot, and 96 different amines he has now put on this. And this paper has been taken, this dichloromethane solutions. Once he has done this, he has irradiated at 60 watt for 30 seconds. So what has happened is, this chlorine has been displaced with the amine. Now again, on the same spots, he has taken other designated amines, and sequentially he has displaced the another chloro. And so he has done two chloro displacements. Rather, first was already here, and then he has digested, he has cut these all small things in 96 test tubes. He has digested them with trifluoroacetic acid, and then individually he has got the solutions, filtered them and neutralized them, and then he has again extracted with dichloromethane, dried, and he got 96 compounds for the entire operation. Maybe it took 1 hour or 2 hours, but otherwise the microwave irradiation is just few minutes. This is a wonderful paper, how microwave works. I was so fascinated, I wrote a review article on the combinatorial library preparation for new drug discovery research using microwave, and we got an best review award from Indian Drugs that year. I myself generated so many libraries of thionopyrimidines, which are bioisosteric to quinazolines, and using different even the starting material thiophene also I prepared, which I published in Synthetic Communication. In tall beakers, I did it in few minutes. And then I condense with urea, condense with methyl thiocyanate, with chloroacetonitrile, dichloroacetonitrile, and various other amides. And this particular work was very much appreciated when I visited Berlin for presenting a paper for tetrahedron symposium. And many visitors came and took the snaps of this particular this thing. I am here describing 6 other series of libraries which I have prepared through microwave. One anti-hyperlipidemic series. This type of series, actually, the Goel sir and myself, we had published 3-4 papers on that. First QACR paper has been with Dr. Goel only. Then we did a pharmacokinetic study on rabbit, and then we also tried to elucidate the mechanism of action, that was a pharmacodynamic, and all these 3 papers when metal force show. But then after I took this forward and took it to a different this thing, an anti-hyperlipemic series I prepared. And then I also did the chlorination, chloro compounds. I also did some anti-ulcer compounds using benzimidazolil, thiomethyl acetonitriles with again this orthoaminocarbonyl compounds. I got this, and then I did the PCBA oxidation to make it the sulfonyl from thio, and we got very good results. I'm going to show that. And this is a very good one-pot synthesis of formamide and these orthoamino esters, and using POCl3-DMF as a Wilsmeyer hack variant, and also POCl3 as a chlorinating agent. And fantastically, we got this. And in situ only we displaced with this thing, and we got gefitinib analogs, anti-cancer compounds. So one by one, this was conducted under acid catalysis of catalytic amount of HCl. This compound, this nitriles we changed, this we changed, and in one go, we used to make 15, 15, 20, 20 compounds of this, and they gave very good. 2 substituted methyl gave very good anti-hyperlipemic activity. And this Gewalt reaction, which otherwise take a Dienstag method and 18 hours heating and separation of moisture and then working up the second step, we did it in a tall beaker, just wiped out the moisture with a tissue paper, and then added the sulfur and the amine and alcohol, and again subjected for 1 minute, and we got the Gewalts. And those libraries of the 2 substituted chloromethyl compounds we published in Journal of Heterocyclic Chemistry. And then the another series which I talked about, these were tested for evaluated for anti-hyperlipemic activity, and ezetimibe at 3 different graded doses. And you can see some of our compounds have very nicely, significantly reduced the cholesterol level in the same doses. And we also evaluated the reduction in serum triglyceride levels. There also we got very good results, and we also saw the enhancement of HDL levels. And these were all done in albino-Wister and Sprague-Dawley rat models. We also did this one pot, a very novel reaction, same reaction we did, but we got the chloro. And we judiciously used the stoichiometry, and we could get a chloro. And this we further displaced with amines in situ, and we have actually given this very nicely, the mechanism in the synthetic communication, and this was in tetrahedron laters. And this mechanism has been very nicely shown here, how this formamide and POCl3 formed a Wilsmeyer hack reagent, and how it goes. First forms a 1-carbon donor, cyclizes, and then subsequently another POCl3 does the chlorination, and then in situ only, without a workup, we displace it, and these are all gefitinib analogs. This has been described here, same, that is what I'm telling. And we evaluated them against 5 different cancer cells, and we got with 3 types of assays, like in vitro anti-proliferative assay, MTT assay, and tryptophan blue assay. And we got compared to gefitinib and cyclophosphamide, we got fantastic values. And this project I took further, and we got almost 50 lakh grants from DST. to pursue this. We prepared a lot of libraries, and some of the variants we also checked for a new scaffold as antifungal activity, because this is a persistent problem of this conazoles, fluconazole, ketoconazole, itraconazole. They all have a lot of resistance, and it is the pathogenic fungi which kill the patient rather than the real cause. And so this was very much appreciated in the what you can say CYP 51 cavity. Also we saw that this most important heme iron is very nicely trapped, and this paper was published in the European Journal of Medicinal Chemistry. We made a library of these compounds, and we also filed a patent actually for this, and within 1 month I got more than 550 views for this paper. This another was the anti-ulcer activity, and this stomach has got these Rosenthal glands in which there are parietal cells where resides the proton pumps. And here I have tried to depict the proton pump. This is the parietal cell actually. And these on the surface you have 3 types of receptors: histamine, gastrin, and acetylcholine, and which is modulated by the CMP dependent and calcium dependent pathways, activate the HK ATPase pump. And now sequential exchanges of cations and anions take place, from outside extracellular, this thing of carbon dioxide and water enter and they form the carbonic acid. Now this carbonic acid, simultaneously chloride comes, and this carbonic acid, what you say, the hydrogen gets exchanged with the potassium, and then again next step this HCl is formed. HCl is now produced. This is how HCl is produced and secreted. And now you can actually attack this and modulate the ulcers or the secretory activity of this proton pump. So you can have the H2 receptor like ranitidine and family. They block here at histamine. You have the pyrinzapine, the muscarinic receptor, you can block. And you can act with omeprazole and other things, and you can block this type of directly at the pump. That is the core. And the logic behind our compound preparation is like we studied the at molecular level how this sulfonyl methyl benzimidazoles act, all these omeprazole and all. And this starts with a cascade of electron donation from the basic nitrogen of the pyridine nucleus of that, and this sulfonamide intermediate forms, and that forms an irreversible disulfide linkage with the 813 cysteine of the proton pump. So the biggest problem with this all proton pump inhibitors is continuous use may cause irreversible inhibition. And therefore, worldwide people are trying to find milder proton pump inhibitors which are reversible. So we exchange pyridine with pyrimidine, which with another electronegative nitrogen, the basicity is little bit less, and the propensity of forming this disulfide is very poor. And we got good results, and we did it with a Sherratt model. And we did again our orthoamino ester, and we prepared these what you can say benzimidazole thioacetonitriles, and we did libraries of these compounds, and we got fantastic activities of the thiomethyl as well as sulfonyl methyl with PCBA oxidation. And we studied 3 parameters, that is the volume of the gastric acid of the ligated pyrrolus secreted, the volume, the pH, and the ulcerative index. And we used omeprazole as what you can say the standard, and you can see we got very comparable results with few of our molecules. See here also we got little bit comparative results. These are some of the promising molecules. Yes, and this particular paper was granted the best paper award also by IJPR. This more biological activity was internationally published. We also did the mononuclear pyrimidine libraries using microwave. And this is another wonderful thing. We prepared some antifungal thiazole series in one step, taking the acetophenones, HBr, and the amine and ammonium thiocyanate. So in situ, the phenacyl bromides are formed, which are otherwise very lacrimatory, and the thioureas are formed. And in situ only you get the thiazole. And this is one step MCR, and in few minutes I will show you. And the beauty is that is the pyrimidines which we did. And here we used water as a benign solvent. This is my 5th point after microwave, that water under pressures and at high temperature behaves differently. its dielectric constant changes, its hydrogen bonding properties, its pH, its boiling point, its solubilizing power, everything changes and it becomes a wonderful solvent. And it is a benign solvent. It doesn't, whatever water vapor is not a polluting thing. So this was a fantastic paper. And today also I received a request that can we take it as a book chapter. And we used a combination of microwave and water. All these reactions in 1.5 minutes, we got the products. And we got a very good antifungal activity against Candida albicans with a fluconazole as a standard. And we also got very good MIC values against E. coli, the streptomycin we used. And another paper was published, very good activities. I also wrote a book on the green synthesis of 2-amino-4-aryl thiazoles employing microwave and water. A little bit of, I'm coming to the end, microwave can be very nicely used with a very nicely designed. I'm going to show how a very domestic microwave can be used for undergraduate laboratories. So students can be taught of purification, workup, TLCs and other things. What we do is for 2 hours, we just keep it for refluxing and students don't learn anything. So I published some 11 reactions which were there in the second year BPharm of Pune University. We took up them, me and my staff members, and we published, and again we got an award for this paper. That is microwave synthesis for undergraduate chemistry practicals. We described all these things, and we have shown here the comparative reaction time has also been reduced substantially, and the yields are also enhanced. This is our domestic microwave. Contrary to the belief, microwave only goes horizontally, it doesn't come out. So you can draw holes, you can specially fabricate this type of condensers. And in one this thing, and these microwaves don't cost you. You can take them in bulk to maximum 3,000 rupees. And most of the reactions at the laboratories can be done in microwave, non-polluting. We had at the end of at the wall, we had our all fume cupboards, and we had put a lot of these things on the scaffolds. And you can monitor them with TLCs very nicely. So I used to give training to my students of library synthesis on such micro. Then I used to use my CEM microscope, microwave, Voyager, whenever I need to tune up and publish. So I have shown you that judiciously you can understand the conditions, you can use the catalysis, use the solvent. Solvent can be used for dual purpose, like formamide I use for dual purpose. And you can try to make 4-step, 5-step reactions into 1 step, and so that will be adaptable to parallel library synthetic procedures. So you can achieve no pollution, less side reactions, high yields, high purity, ultra short reaction time. These are some of the important conclusions. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I think I have taken up 10 minutes, a little bit more I have taken, but anyway.
हेलो डॉक्टर जैन साहब, नमस्कार
सर आपका इंतजार था।
आपका लेक्चर आई हैव मिस्ड।
यस सर,
डॉक्टर किशोर जैन,
आपका दीदार करने के लिए तो हम तो
आई मिस्ड योर लेक्चर अनफॉर्चुनेटली।
या आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड, बट एनीवे you will get, you can
how
see
are you?
record.
I'm not in a position to hear you. I think there is something. Are you mute or what?
No, I was talking continuously.
सर को म्यूट किया हुआ है क्या? Hello?
No.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but Wakode sir, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you?
People
Can
are
you hear me?
आप लोग online, you're online.
Yeah.
Hello?
Sir, you
Hello.
have to hear both. We
Hello,
see the
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we can hear you. And
Hello?
People are able to hear both of us.
Can
I
can you hear me?
Goel sir, I can hear you, but you are not able to hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
just a
Then
minute.
we
Okay.
are hearing each other.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now I can hear you. Okay, I think it was from my side. So
Let
how
me
are you?
Let me shake the hand, sir.
Yes. This is the way.
और जब मिलेंगे तब गले में मिलेंगे, मतलब अभी तो आप ही।
बिल्कुल वो गले भी तब मिल सकते हैं कि अगर आप रूम के अंदर हो, क्योंकि बाहर है ना सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग में पकड़े जाओगे आप।
यस सर, यस सर, यस सर, बहुत बहुत अच्छा लगा सर। मैं आपको आराम से फोन करूंगा शाम को कभी कभार।
नहीं, अभी मैं लेट मी शेयर यू फ्यू एक्सपीरियंसेस अबाउट डॉक्टर किशोर जैन. We happen to be a very, very close friends. और if somebody asks me
Yeah.
in my career, यहाँ पर भी सबको ये लगता है कि ये फार्माकोलॉजी के होके ये कभी केमिस्ट्री ज्यादा बोलने लग जाते हैं और कभी ये है. तो अगर केमिस्ट्री अगर मैं बोल रहा हूँ, the one of the reasons of why I am in a position to speak chemistry, it is because of Dr. Kishore Jain.
Sir,
Because I remember, no, I
is
tell you the true story. I remember it was 1991, 1990 and 91. It was probably that, or maybe a little earlier. In chemistry, in those days, they had a patent on anti-hyperlipidemic drug.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Shishu,
Yes,
one
sir.
of the very important person. And they were struggling to publish that paper in Arzimetal Fortune.
Yes, sir.
And Dr. Kishore Jain, I don't know what he thought in those early days. He told me, sir, why don't you ask Goel himself to write the paper? He has been writing so many papers, so why don't you ask him? And somehow, then at that time we interacted. I showed that these are the things to be done and all that. I was fortunate to become that the co-author in that Arzimetal Fortune. And then somehow Dr. Shishu involved me in other projects. And another compound was the anti-arrhythmic drug. Can you imagine in those days, anti-arrhythmic drug, LM2616, I still remember, LM15554. And somehow that the story went so much further that LM1554 compound, we could demonstrate that it is acting through the bile enterohepatic circulation also. And after 15 years, I got one paper to review. Therein this reference came, and I was asked to review that paper. And in that process of this compound, LM1554, I learned quantitative structure-activity relationship, which has grown to now molecular modeling and all that. And this was the beginning which he made me. And at that time, we tried to understand this. What I am trying to tell, I missed his lecture and it must have been the extraordinary lecture. But what I'm trying to say that there are no boundaries in the subjects. And I remember in those days, my best article, pharmacology articles, I used to get from Journal of Medicinal Chemistry. It was so, I don't know, I used to like those articles like anything at that time. So all the faculty members, I will simply say that if you interact more within the departments, then you can really come up. Normally what happens, we think we should have collaboration with USA, Australia and all that. You might have seen in 4 years, we are doing all that. We are signing MOUs, but still I give more preference to interdepartmental work first. So this is what is the classical example. I talked to Dr. Sharad Ghalkode that why didn't you call Dr. Kishore Jain also? I was just, when he was asking, one of the name came out was that only. And I am sure that it is justified that the way the thorough knowledge which he has got. If chemistry department of LM College was known, it was known because of people like him, Anantan, Bharti, and there were many. Unfortunately, we had one sad incident. But the department used to be overnight working. I mean, there was nothing like a day and night in that department. That's what used to be that chemistry department. That thing is lost, but I'm very happy to see that something is still alive and things are moving further. The whole world has also changed. The type of chemistry has also classically changed. So all these things are there. And I'm really happy to see you in person, at least on the screen, but so nice. And I'm sure that it must be nice lecture.
Sir, I take the occasion in front of everybody. You will not say, but I want to invite you, and I'm going to send you an official invitation to talk on new education policy. I will call you, I will discuss, and after 10-15 days, I want to call you on that platform. Today morning, we had a meeting and I have suggested your name. And I know Dr. Goyal can talk very good on Corona also, and he can talk on education also, and he can talk on anything.
No, no. As far as the education policy, I tell you, in 2009, we prepared myself and one Dr. A.U. Patel, he was the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University.
I know.
We prepared that policy, and at least 50 to 70% of that report is there in the new education policy.
Yes.
I wish that that implementation program plan which I had given there, it is done in the new education policy. If you are there, I will send you. You remind me. I will send you that copy.
No, I will be calling you in the evening today or tomorrow. Definitely.
Okay.
I will have
No,
a
no,
detailed
but this
talk
is,
with you.
yeah. So that is there, and I am still hopeful because of him. Like I am still aspiring even today, after as at the age of 65. I wish that I can give some new compound to the world.
Yeah.
I'm still having that aspiration, which was triggered by Dr. K.S. Jain.
That is a
Thank
very
you.
big statement, sir.
No, it is. It will come.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And I hope whatever my endeavors were there were up to the liking and people understood what I said. And if you don't mind, if you want to proceed with some questions, I will like, because I have to join again to some meeting. So I once again thank Goyal sir, I thank Pathak sir, I thank Vakode sir, I thank Amrita Parle madam and all the organizers and all the audience for being very patient and listening to me. I think it was a wonderful experience. I always enjoy talking, and I always it is wonderful to share your experiences. And some of these projects were actually done with Dr. Goyal, so it was additional experience. So thank you very much. And Parle madam, what is the next order? Tell me.
Certificate.
It's open for question answer.
Ah,
There is one query.
ah,
Sir, kindly elaborate more how to use domestic microwave for synthesis.
okay. I will tell it in a very crude way. I have shown you the figure. You have to fabricate that. If you, madam, if you can allow me to share the screen 1 minute, I will just explain it.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Sharing your
Fine. It's very much here only.
one more thing, that is it
Can
good
you see?
thing or
Can you see my
somewhat
screen? Can you
dangerous?
see my screen?
Yeah, your screen is on, sir. Up screen share.
Sir, you have to just buy a basically a microwave. You have to cut it with a fabricator. Some holes you have to dig it. You have to specially design this type of condenser. This is typical as a bulb and a short neck, so it will go inside. There is again a quick fist thing, and then you can actually put the flask, and you can make series of, at least in one microwave you can make 4 such things, and that will not cost you more than 4-5,000 in today's price. That time we used to spend 2,500 to this thing, and you have to maintain the microwave very well. After every reaction, you have to clean up the internal surface. You have to wipe it with methanol, dry it, so corrosion will not take place. And you can make such scaffolds in the wall, and you can put it in the fume hood. And this will be, you can also sometimes use open beakers. So there is not much pressure built up, and you have to exercise a care that your volume should not go to 50%. It should be less than that. And you can use a turntable. Turntable is there fitted with that. And you have to continuously monitor it with TLCs and other things, the reaction progress and all here I have shown. And you can really develop protocols with a good understanding of the reaction mechanisms and other things. If your things are very clear, you can keep on trying this and it will wonderfully work. I think I've given the answer.
I hope Vichar Shakti is satisfied with the answer of Dr. Jain. There is one more question, Dr. Jain.
Yeah.
Sapan Shah is asking, sir, in chalcone synthesis, Stability of compound in solid form is a concern. What is your suggestion?
You can use PTC, madam, phase transfer catalysis, and you can dissolve these compounds into, or you can take a solid PTC. You can conduct the reaction in anhydrous tetrahydrofuran, or you can take it in acetone, potassium carbonate, TBAB mixture, and whatever you want to react, other reactant, and you will get fantastic yields. They are documented in the literature also. So you can circumvent the moisture. You can put a guard tube on the top of the condenser.
You will be happy to know, Dr. Kishore Jain. There are many compliments for you. Very informative session, nice session. Kindly, sir, elaborate on this particular topic. Then nice session. Thank you, sir. And
So madam, next time you give me 3 hours and conduct a separate session,
Sir,
I will be happy to speak on many things. Last week, I was on live on YouTube, and within 2 hours, I got 2,500 views. How to write a research paper.
Yes.
Next, I am going to speak how to write a review article.
Great.
Yeah,
Sir, basically, you have done such an exhaustive work that everything comes to your mind, as a flash. If someone asks the question, you are as if a ready reckoner you are for.
No, that was very common with our seniors. Like my senior, Dr. Anantan, who is still alive. Other seniors have gone, and Dr. Goyal will also understand. And Dr. Anantan is heading the Sloan Scattering at Alabama, a particular tuberculosis center. And when he came for an MPharm interview, that time he had digested Jerry Marsh 3 times. So we had answers, and we never used to take holiday actually 365 days. So for few years, we never saw our any movies also, or sometimes we used to see. That type of passion was there, dedication was there. Unfortunately, I don't want to comment now, but that developed writing, reading, and working.
So what I can say in simple words is, you get up with chemistry, you eat chemistry, you sleep chemistry, you do everything in chemistry.
That I used to, madam. Now I'm doing a lot of administration. Now you ask me norms, you ask me accreditation, you ask me the areas of laboratories and all, I will tell you.
You are the best combination of administration and the research. I can say. Great session, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sparing your time.
Thank you, madam.
Exposing the younger crowd or motivating them for doing such a research.
Yes,
Thank you so much for sparing your time.
Thank you, madam.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I request our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ramesh Goyal, sir, to give the certificate. I'll just flash the certificate on the screen, and it is a virtual, you can say, honoring by Vice Chancellor.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope I will get the soft copy by mail.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just joking. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shall I take the leave? I have to join some other session.
sir.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, we will call you next time.
Yes, sir.
Early,
पाठक सर बाय और गोयल साहब बाय मैं फोन करूंगा आपको